Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and I'm getting ready to go run some errands. But before I do, I want to make a video talking about the introduction of Deadpool into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, here's going to be the funny thing about this, right? Here's the funny thing about this. Everybody's looking for like an in-continuity way to explain it, right? Because the Marvel Cinematic Universe sticks largely to the continuity aspect, right? Like, what would it look like if superheroes existed outside your window, basically? And a lot of people really stick to that. A lot of people want to see something like that. But with Deadpool, he's completely zany and kind of out there and kind of a little bit crazy. And so in my mind, people are going to be asking the question, if Deadpool's introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a character that's basically always been there, then what's he been doing this entire time? Well, I can tell you what he's been doing this entire time. He has been playing Raid Shadow Legends. Yes, he has. So what is Raid Shadow Legends? Well, Raid is an epic dark fantasy that's done right. It's a hero collection turn-based game with over 400 champions for you to collect and personally customize. You can assemble a team from 16 heroic factions. There's events and tournaments taking place every week. You can discover 13 spectacular locations, enjoy a fully voiced story campaign, which is amazing, by the way. The best part of all this is the game is absolutely free. That's right, it is free to download and free to play. Some of the best features, and one of the things that I enjoy the most, is the multi-battle auto mode, in the sense that you can set battles to run in auto mode while you go do something else. You can spend less time grinding and more time developing your teams and fighting the fun stuff. There's always a way to compete and win extra prizes every week. The game is growing super fast, and check out this cool roadmap that they've published. They actually have huge plans for updates in the game for over 6 months, so there's an infinite amount of content for you to enjoy, and there's no time to get bored. So what are you waiting for? Go to the link in the video description, click on the special link that will get you 50,000 silver and a free epic champion as part of the new player program to start your journey. But to the topic at hand, the idea of Deadpool in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, here's the thing. I wouldn't do that whole thing of trying to make sure it fits in continuity. I wouldn't worry about all that, right? Because I think it makes it complicated. See, here's the funny thing about Deadpool. Here's the thing about Deadpool that made him so cool when it made him so cool when it came to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And really just like the Fox movies, right? The idea of Deadpool is that he was basically a parody on superheroes, is really what he was. He didn't start out that way, right? Like let's go to the comics for a second. This is gonna be an important thing, because honestly, I would put him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe the same way Christopher Priest did. So let's go to the comics, right? Let's wind the clock back to like 1997, right? And here's the reason why that matters. It's because before 1997, Deadpool was introduced by Rob Liefeld in New Mutants issue number 98. And at the time, Marvel was basically getting ready to get rid of New Mutants and to launch a whole new story called X-Force, which was ridiculously popular when it first came out. It was an amazing story. And so the idea here was that when Deadpool was introduced, he was kind of like your standard fare of like these darker, mysterious anti-heroes, right? And it made sense because Wolverine had kind of set that popularity in motion, right? Some guy who shows up, who's got kind of like a dark checkered past. You don't really know a whole lot about it. You just know like there's mystery and intrigue there. And he's also kind of cool in the sense that he seems to have somewhat of a soft spot. It's just a matter of sort of figuring that out, right? Like women love that stuff. And so because of that, like Deadpool was introduced in the same fashion, and Deadpool resonated with fans, right? People really loved him. The problem was by the time we got to the mid 1990s, we got the comic bust, right? You know, we talked about the comic bust a whole bunch of times. Marvel made the right move at the time by throwing Deadpool into different stories, having a crossover with Wolverine a couple times, throwing him in some other stories involving other heroes that weren't really confined to stories about Cable, right? You know, the leader of X-Force. But all this changed in 1997. And the reason why was because Deadpool was viewed as one of those characters where maybe he was bankable, maybe he wasn't, right? His Circle Chase miniseries by Mark Waid sold pretty well. So like there was obviously a market for his character, but interest in like the dark, edgy, gritty characters, right? So like GW Bridge and Cable and X-Force, things like that was all basically dropping off. And so people were kind of like, all right, well, I mean, or at least Marvel was like, let's, you know, whatever, like we're not going to cancel him, but like we're not going to give him top billing, right? Like we're going to throw him somewhere in between and just kind of see how it plays out, because there's enough people buying it to keep him afloat, but not enough that he should be getting like the same kind of writers as like Spider-Man or something like that. And so as a result of that, they handed over to not Christopher Kelly, to Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness. Ed McGuinness drew the comic for like the first 4 or 5 issues, I think, or something like that. Then he dropped off, and Joe Kelly wrote for the first somewhere between 15 to 25 issues, I think, and then he left. But Joe Kelly, his run on Deadpool is kind of considered to be the first instance of Deadpool getting like this dark humor, right? And so as a result of that, there were only a couple instances under Joe Kelly's run when Deadpool broke the fourth wall. What he was doing was stuff like making fun of the story, right? Like, this is a ridiculous story, isn't it? Just different things like that. Not all the time. It wasn't something that was constantly in your face. That version of Deadpool, the one that you know now, that would come later. Instead, what you got was little scenarios where like Kitty Pryde, who was hanging out with Wolverine at the time, was annoying Deadpool, so he uppercutted her out of the panel, right? Just little things like that that were hilarious. It was amazing, but that was kind of the most you got. But what ended up happening is Joe Kelly left, right? Joe Kelly ended up leaving Deadpool, and the result was that he was handed over to a handful of characters, or I guess a handful of writers. Gail Simone was one of those writers. A lot of you guys probably know her from her run on Batwoman, different things like that. But the real big change to Deadpool came when he was given to Christopher Priest. And the reason why was because Christopher Priest at the time was a writer where comic book characters would go to die. That's basically what it was, right? If Marvel wanted to write a character out, if they wanted to cancel their series, they would hand it to Christopher Priest, he would finish the story, and it would be that way. And it had been that way really since the run of Power Man and Iron Fist. That's when Christopher Priest basically became the guy that canceled stories. And the reason why was because at the time, kind of winding back a little bit further here, let me sidetrack for a second. At the time, Power Man and Iron Fist was resoundingly popular under Mary Jo Duffy. The issue was that it wasn't what editor-in-chief Jim Shooter wanted to do. He wanted like darker, edgier stories. She was telling like comedy stories, like funny stories, and people loved Power Man and Iron Fist. But because of the fact that it didn't work out, they ended up firing her. They took her off the title. They replaced her with Kurt Busiek. Kurt Busiek did the same thing she did, and then they got rid of Kurt Busiek, and then they handed it over to Christopher Priest. Christopher Priest basically ended the series by having Iron Fist punched through a wall by a fan, and it killed him. Fans were pissed. They were so mad. And so as a result of that, Christopher Priest became the guy who would basically cancel stories for Marvel. And so when he took over the title, the first story that he did, in terms of like the first issue that he had here, Deadpool is basically walking through this trailer park. And he's being escorted there by some guy in a suit or something along those lines. And so Deadpool's going through this trailer park, and he is met with this place is supposed to be his, right? It's like, well, here's your trailer, here's where you're going to be staying. And when they open the door, it's all the characters that Christopher Priest had canceled. And Deadpool takes one look around and leaves. He's like, no way I'm staying in this place. He's like, nope. He's like, not happening. I'm not getting canceled. So like he goes walking, he jumps into this giant lake and wakes up in this kind of, liquid stasis pod. And that's where his story starts. And then from there, Christopher Priest made the Deadpool that you know today, right? The one who would break the fourth wall by addressing the reader on the comic book page. Really, She-Hulk was the first one to do that under John Byrne. But in terms of like breaking the fourth wall within the pages of the story, that's where Deadpool really blew up, right? Like addressing the reader, talking to you directly, telling you how dumb he thought the story was, and all that kind of stuff. People loved it. They ate it up like gangbusters. The guy who was supposed to cancel Deadpool ended up saving it. And that's one of the things that people sort of tend to forget. But that's what I would do, right? Like, I wouldn't worry about trying to fit Deadpool into continuity. I would just throw him, like drop him into the story. Just kind of have him like just appear there and just be like, man, dude, this universe is a lot more put together than the one that I was in before. Like, Fox sucks. And or something along those lines, making fun of Fox, being the character that continually breaks the fourth wall, that basically says, hey, look, audience, I get you guys are here to watch a comic book movie, and I know you guys want to suspend your disbelief, but come on, a movie with a giant green guy that rages and smashes stuff, and then you guys like didn't like the version of him who became super smart. Like, why did they waste him like that? Like, let him be the guy that's our voice in the comic books, right? Kind of like pointing out the things that don't make sense to us, so on and so forth. Not all the time, right? The guy doesn't need to be a critic, right? He doesn't need to be like a critic of the MCU. That's not really what he needs to be, but certainly throw him in a way where it allows us as the viewer to have fun with it, right? Just kind of have fun and have a good time and just sort of let things go and just sort of see where the chips fall, because that's how Deadpool is. That's how he was in Deadpool 1. That's how he was in Deadpool 2. I mean, for God's sake, you had the Invisible Man who was invisible all the way up until the point he died, and then you learned it was Brad Pitt. So it's just, little things like that are super cool. Let that version of Deadpool stay. Give us that guy. He doesn't have to fit into continuity. He doesn't have to fit into a nice little organized box. He just needs to be the guy that lets us have fun. And following the Christopher Priest treatment with his first issue where Deadpool like makes fun of the fact that he's just kind of like, okay, no way I'm going to sit here and be canceled or anything like that. Take that and kind of adapt it to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then just kind of go forward accordingly, right? I think it would be a resounding success. I think it would be hilarious, but let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. With that being said, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.